Okay, and start. Yeah, I don't do a whole lot of editing to my videos, so I keep things very casual and very kind of free-flowing and whatnot. So, I guess, questions. Let's start off super casual. Squats, deadlifts, or single leg RDLs?
Deadlift, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I come from powerlifting, and out of squat, bench, and deadlift has always been my favorite. Like still from today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we get into that's definitely something I wanna talk about. Why don't you kind of give the viewers at home or on the phone or wherever the heck you guys are a little brief description about yourself.
So I'm Joy. Do I look at the camera or do I look at you?
Either are.
Okay. Well, I'm Joy. And I'm 24 years old. I'm originally from the D.C. area, Virginia, Northern Virginia. I moved here because my husband's from here. He grew up here. And I just do case management. That's my full-time job, working with youth at risk and working with community, the family, and things like that. And I don't know, just doing fitness at the same time. At first I thought I just had it as a hobby. But throughout the years, it didn't feel like a hobby as much anymore, but more of like, okay, like, I want to make a career out of this, you know? I was kind of selfish at first, too, because people had mentioned it to me that I should be a personal trainer, but I was like, I don't like teaching people. I do this because of me. I don't do this for anyone else. But then later on, I just felt like I had gained so much knowledge that I just wanted to share with other people. And then when people would come to me, I just go all out and just really go in depth. And I just realized that okay, maybe I do want to make this into a career. And yeah, it's kind of fun.
Well, you can make a strong argument that social work and personal training there's a lot of similarities that could be kind of putting one into the other and vice versa. Let's kind of double back, because I really like the fact that you're a powerlifter. You know, if I had to think about women's sports as just a whole, we didn't have a powerlifting team in high school, and just to be honest, I don't think it's something that was as popular. I think a lot of times that for people that were training in weights, at the weight room was more like that's your cross training from whatever was the sport that you did.
Yeah.
So when did you start into powerlifting?
I first started getting into fitness in general, I think 2014, beginning of 2014. I think it was a year after that I started getting into powerlifting. So probably 2016. And then I was competing 2017, 2018. I only did a few competitions. But yeah, after that I did get injured. I had a herniated disc. Yeah, I had a herniated disc in the lumbar. I didn't stretch, I didn't do mobility, I didn't warm up correctly. So everything was just self-taught from the beginning. I had always just taught myself. And I think that's what happened. I didn't really, teach the importance of stretching and resting and all that stuff, deloading. So just all that build up and fatigue, I ended up getting injured. I went to physical therapy. And then from there, I just kind of took a year off to recover. I really wanted to put an emphasis on mobility and stretching and correcting form and all that stuff. But within that break, I started exploring CrossFit, Olympic lifting, HIIT, cycling, and from there, powerlifting has always been my number one passion. But ever since that injury, I've become more of a well-rounded athlete. That's been more of my goal, rather than putting myself in a bubble and just doing powerlifting.
You know what I find so interesting about that, because that's so common for a lot of just athletes as a whole. I can maybe put more emphasis on lifters. But when it comes to that stretching mobility versus like just grind it out in the weight room beast mode kind of a thing. And I think it's always that type of equation, like, and I could say this for all the sports that I ever played back in high school. It's like, make sure you're working hard, you're really going, all out. And then it's like when you talk about like what did you do for your warm up, it's like, maybe we ran around the track a few times, we touched your toes some. Right. It was like we kind of sneezed on that. And I think anytime we I don't know about you, but maybe some of my lifting people that help me out over life is like, well, you really should be stretching. But there's like this weird, like you look at them, it's like, when I'll get to it when I get to it, like when I'm as old as you and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, for some people, you get hurt. And then I was like, I should have been doing this all along. I guess I'm not as bulletproof as I thought I thought I was.
I had friends, we all did powerlifting at some point, they had got injured. And I'm like, wow, like I'm the only one that hasn't got injured yet. And then it was like a year later where it just kind of went downhill from there.
I see that so often even within bodybuilders too, and there's almost like this weird quotient that even though they know they're hurt, it's more based on your tenacity and how you can just like that whole pain no gain attitude of it. Was the herniated disc brought about like just the constant repetition of the training, or was there a specific like tournament or a lifting meet that all of a sudden you're like, oh crap?
No, it was just training. Honestly, I had felt the pain probably for a few months, but it didn't really click to me that like, oh shoot, I think there might be something wrong. At first I thought that maybe I was just sore or tight, maybe I didn't warm up well enough, and then as I go through the sets, I'll get more warm. It is just, I didn't really think about it probably till after I left the gym. It's like I could barely walk. I still felt the pain just bending over and just little things like that where I realized like, okay, like it's hurting me, not just when I'm lifting, but when I'm literally just at home, that's when I realized like, okay, maybe there's something wrong.
How long did it take for you to get out of that?
Well, I was really stubborn. And I did some recovery, stretching, rehab, and then go back into it, and then slowly progress, feel the pain, okay, I need to start all over. It was just kind of back and forth, and I think the whole process honestly took like over a year, just because I was so stubborn in the beginning. I knew that I really, really needed to like completely rest, do very lightweight, low reps, put my priority in rehab and physical therapy and all that, so this is the whole process. It took a year.
Okay. Well, obviously, a herniated disc is not something to sneeze at. So I think that's a big hang-up. So first and foremost, lesson people, make sure you're getting your mobility routine out there. Let me kind of talk to you maybe on a different angle with that. Since I said, like, I didn't know, I knew a few friends of mine that were doing powerlifting that were girls. But it wasn't that, I think they had the mindset of a powerlifter and they were really working on getting stronger, but they weren't, how should I say it? I think Hawaii was always kind of a mecca when it came to like strongman competition. And that's still very, very popular, and so I didn't know too many like really active competitors. Let me talk to this on two different angles. Number one, as a woman lifter, lifted heavy crap. And number two, this is an observation, and I'm not a pickup line by any means, but you have a very attractive build. And so the reason why I mentioned that is one of the things, if I had to make this like coach confessionary, and please throw in your own 2 cents on other issues, but I think one thing that I've heard so many times is that a female client will say, I don't want to lift heavy because, please finish the sentence.
I'll look manly, I'll get bulky, that's actually what I was going to say, so I request her.
So, I mean, you're none of that, but why does that persist? Yet you're a living example of that it's really not a thing.
I mean, I think with the culture in like social media and everything, how like fitness has become such a huge thing on there, I think that mindset is slowly starting to shift in women, and that's why I'm starting to see more women come in. But I think,
see that, but I still hear it.
yeah,
right?
But I think it was just from, you know, like magazines and TV shows and all that stuff, and I don't know, it's irritating, honestly, that people still think that way, because it's not as easy as people think.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I know, I've known several women who, they go through phases, they go through cutting and bulking, and bulking is just so difficult for them. They really have to be intentional with their workouts and with their nutrition, and even with that, it can take months on months on months on months. And it can be hard for them even. So for someone to think that like, oh, I'm just going to do 10 pounds, 12 pounds, you know, starting to do more machines and thinking, oh, if I just do those little things, I'm going to start getting bulky. That is not the case at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Even with getting accidentally bulky, like I just don't think that's a thing. You can't accidentally.
Who ever got like accidentally bulky? You know what I mean?
I've never met anyone who's gotten accidentally.
Yeah, it's not the way how people think in the perception.
Yeah, there's like a science behind it.
Absolutely.
You have to be very intentional if that's your goal, is to get bulky or look manly. Or even just when they think of manly, or I think when people think of bodybuilding, and maybe that's when they look it up, they see all these bodybuilding competitors thinking, oh, that's what I would look like if I start doing bodybuilding and weightlifting. But again, these athletes are being very intentional with their training, and that's why they end up looking like that.
Yeah, and also the goal is to get strong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, however the body needs to adapt to it is how the body's going to adapt to it. It's something that I've dealt with on the bodybuilding side of things too. You know, just for me personally, as well as you know, people that are training toward the competition. And I think there's like this weird social connection to it. If I was to ask you the personal question, were you ever bugged about that, like when you were bulky? Because I know you're not up to the competition weight that you used to be.
Yeah.
But it also really wasn't that far off from where you are now, right?
Yeah, no, when I competed, I think I was like in the 140 class. I'm like 130 now, so I weigh less now, but yeah, like I said, you just have to be very intentional of getting there, and then just, I think a lot of women, they always come in saying, I want to lose weight, I want to tone up, but they only want to stay on a cardio machine, and you tell them, if you do strength training, you will get toned, you'll build that muscle, you'll shed that fat, you'll tighten those places, you're building this physique for yourself, but yet they don't want to, they'd rather just continue listening to what they see on, media and the news and just what they're being fed. So that can be
difficult. And it puts everybody into these, like, just kind of, I don't want to use the word dumb, but it's the first thing that comes to mind. We had this one coach at Kailua when I was there, this girl by the name of Cara, and she was apparently this really accomplished powerlifter from New York. And she didn't weigh more than like maybe 120 some odd pounds. But her deadlifts, I want to say it was well above 300.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no, well, I know that she was squatting 315. Still at around 100 pounds and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she was tough as nails. Sweet girl.
But again, I'm happy now to see that more women are change that mindset and coming in and saying, I want to get stronger, I want to lift weights, I want to build muscle. So,
yeah.
That's the positive.
What would be, in your opinion, the next big, like, myth-buster thing that you would like to kind of stomp on and get that out in the open, and people are like, stop asking me that question?
I think maybe abs. I think a lot of people today that in order to get abs, all they have to do is just abs exercise.
More sit-ups.
Right.
More
sit-ups, crunches, and that's the structure of their fitness program. It's cardio and abs. Cardio and abs. But then some people don't realize that when you're strength training and you're squatting, deadlifting, literally in every movement that you're doing, you're using your core, you're engaging it. And for me, I don't do core often. I have some sort of definition, and obviously that comes with nutrition and taking care of my body and just being active throughout the day. But I feel like my core definition comes mostly from lifting. And it's just really learning how to engage it and increasing core stability. And of course you can still do ab exercises, not saying if you just do ab exercises, you're not going to get abs, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of misconceptions that has built up to what we're talking about now. Number one, and actually I want you to kind of put in your definition of core, since we're on the context of it. So that will kind of help people understand what we're talking about. So what is core in terms of what you're talking about?
The stomach? Is that what you mean?
Well, that
like
stomach that's part of it, for sure. Not to inject myself too much into this, it more comes down into spinal stability as a whole. So your hips are just as much as your core structure as your abs. I think part of the misconception, I'm saying this part, not all, look at military PT training. Like, what's generally, I know that they've been changing up their programs just a little bit, more so in the Army. What is the 3 exercises they always throw into it?
Like what? Pull-ups, sit-ups, and running? Is that
the Marines have the pull-ups,
Okay.
So usually it's like push-ups, sit-ups, and some type of run. And then the Marines have their pull-up thing. But I think it's like the idea that sit-ups and core, it makes up all of core.
Right.
And the reality is pretty much you're just working out the erector abdominals. You're not really talking about transverse abdominals, pelvic floor, any internal core structures that are the actual stability for your spine. As well as, I'm sure you can speak to the nth degree when you're talking about trying to keep your hips stable for deadlifts and squats. Right.
And even just the benefits, I think when people think of core stability, ab exercises, they think of it as just, I'm doing abs because I want definition. But for me, nowadays, it's like, I need to do core so I can have safe lifts. And strong lifts, because I don't want to get hurt again, right? You know? If I have a weak core, I end up using my back, my hips get tight, all that stuff. But if I have a strong, stable core, I can depend on it and not use so much pressure on my back and avoid a future injury again.
Exactly. Thank you for putting all that together. I mean, it's funny because as we're talking this, we're preaching to the choir back and forth, but that's not the thing that people know what we're talking about specifically. Because I think as much as we've put that out there and we've just said it, I almost guarantee that we are going to get somebody here that's going to say, I want to get my abs in, I want to get what you call, can you please give me more sit-up exercises for, and I was like, it doesn't work the way you think it works. So, thank you, that's a very, very good one. Let's kind of double back to kind of your life outside of the gym. You know, I had a good friend of mine when I started doing these podcasts, that he's a social worker. And I think one of the things is that we have a very unique job as being a coach. Sure, it's pretty spelled out that our job here is to help people get to their health goals and whatever they want to accomplish on that side of things. But one thing that, kind of going back since we were talking about like social work, is kind of like, you know, training. I could even say being a teacher is very much like being a personal trainer, right? So, what was, you know, speaking to that, what are a few things, like, what are some of the things that you help out with for your social work? Because I've heard a lot of different challenges that my social work friends have kind of shared with me since COVID has kind of started.
So I work at a nonprofit, and it's really just a community center, so I don't just have one role, but I work along with the different programs that we offer at the center. So basically just the gist of my job, you know, day to day, I do case management, reaching out to school counselors, trying to build that relationship and connecting the parents and the students and helping them get back to school, getting up their grades.
Now you're speaking a lot for like DOE and that type of
the
school.
DOE, or we even have our own alternative education program, so if, there's adults or even high schoolers that don't want to be at their public school anymore, maybe their counselor is referring them to leave public school and be in a different type of education. That's what we offer. We have our own education program, and we offer case management services, just so we really make sure that they're getting through the progress of graduating and getting their high school equivalency, and then along the way, we help them with resume building, learning the financial things like that, being good with your money, seeing if they need a job, help them get a job, just teach them life skills, things that they probably wouldn't get so much one-on-one in public school, or being more intentional about them, or about that in the center. And then, especially with COVID, we help people file for unemployment, we help with housing, rental assistance, have food pantry, so really just anything that we can serve the community. That's just, we go all in for that, yeah.
Yeah, I could see how, what you have to, all these dots that you have to get through in order to let you know so much, very similar to what we have to do as coaches, right? And not to mention there's so much overlap that I can speak to. Do you find that this type of work has been harder now with COVID? Because, every challenge that you just met and talked about. I used to teach at Farrington, Myron Thompson, Boyd Tech Academy. That was actually my career before I was a personal trainer. So everything that you're kind of mentioning, like things that are really kind of, resonating with me from I liked before being a coach.
It's actually, ironically, the job is never easy, but I feel like before COVID, it's actually been a little easier. I think our problem with the community is engaging with the parents. And now that, a lot of them aren't working, a lot of them are in need of housing, they need food, they need their bills paid. It's like giving them more of a reason to want to reach out to us and communicate with us. And it kind of sucks that it comes to those circumstances where now you want to make a relationship, now you want to come in. But that's what our center's for, But before COVID, we make phone calls, kind of, have them come in, let them know the kid isn't coming to school, just things like that, having them be more self-aware of those things, and it's like they're kind of distant. But now that they're in need, it's more of a reason to want to come in and get help and all those things.
Right. COVID has obviously caused more bad than good in so many different areas of everybody's life. One thing that I think that it kind of speaks to me that you just mentioned, when you said trying to get people to engage into your social services, and you said it was easier then to now. Is part of that because of obviously social distancing standards? People are more afraid of kind of crossing those boundary lines, or is it because the tools and the resources that social work has to be able to get the information out of there? Is it one more than the other, or I'm sure it's a combination of both?
No, definitely a combination of both. We did lose our after-school program, and that was a big population of, the community that were coming in, obviously, because, kids aren't going to school, they aren't in the neighborhoods and passing by our center, they aren't dropping off after school anymore, we don't offer, activities and tutoring and things like that. So we did lose that engagement. It was, a big part of our center was engaging with the youth, but at the same time, even though we've lost youth, we've made more engagement with the adults, and that was always the struggle with engaging the parents, but now they have a reason to want to engage with us, so it kind of, it goes hand in hand.
If I had to relate that to the gym, I think we are authorities on health. And, you know, what's the obesity rate in America? It's like, I know it's way above 60%.
Yeah, it's high.
Yeah, it's like 60, 70%, somewhere, you know, in rough head math. So if we use that as like a metric for it, obviously there's a lot of people that should be seeking out our services on that side. But I think one of the issues with COVID, and maybe it's more of a social issue, is that obviously people haven't. You know what I mean? Obviously, we've been open for the past few months, but we're not seeing more people coming back into the gym.
Right.
What's kind of your take on maybe that, or even spitball? Like, if I was to give you a magic wand, how would you try to adjust some of these things for both your field outside of here as well as? I know that's a mouthful.
That is, I don't know. I would think with COVID, a lot of more people would be more self-aware of just their health and nutrition, and that alone would want them to come in to the gym and just, you know, build a better immune system and just get stronger and healthier, you know, put their life, you know, first, you know? So that's what I would think, but also just, I think just the fact that you're being around a lot of people and people are sweating, that idea pushes them away. And I think even staying at work, you know, we do have, you know, small activities for youth and try to keep it social distance and all that stuff. But I think because kids are at home now and they're not out and about, it's less convenient for them to go out of the way and come over here. And even though we're offering, you know, things that they don't do at school anymore, because they're just sitting at home, you know, they're not getting any sort of social, you know, what's the word? Interaction, yeah.
I definitely agree with a lot of parts of what you just said. Like, if you had to flip this question back to me, I don't have a whole lot of direct answers, but I think the basis for what we do, and please correct me if I'm wrong when it comes to social work, is people have problems, or challenges, I should really call them. They come to you as somebody that you know more about how you could answer these challenges. And at the very least, they leave with more answers than they do with more questions. And I think that the role of a coach, even to kind of say to your point, if you have concerns about COVID and your health, yes, 3,000%, the more that you are working out and going towards a healthy goal, you're increasing your immune system, generally speaking. You know, it's not the cure, but obviously, you know, you want to put yourself in a better position to be able to handle it. And I think that's something that is getting lost, because number one, it's just not being really said at all when people are talking about their health. Everything is like, put this on, stay away from the other person. You know, follow your rules or else.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Right. I wish we had more time. I mean, in some cases, part of my podcast has been, I've always been a person that I try to outthink things, and so I like to be mentally at least kind of grinding at things, and that's how I find more solace in handling life and issues and problems and whatnot. So for me, just talking to people is very much part of my social life, and I feel that that's kind of something that's really kind of lost, or definitely an issue that hasn't really been answered. But at the same token, I don't really think the gyms are like really to be used inside that type of a tool yet. But it still goes back to my point. If somebody is concerned about, hey, I want to get my kids out of the house, I want to try to get them into some type of routine, I think you should probably still be seeing some type of professional in order to, like, hey, you know what, let's schedule this on the side, I'll put you in this corner to help you out, you know, something as best as we can do. And even as I'm saying this, none of it is easy, especially at a gym like ours. But we're still endeavoring and trying, and it's a better answer than the nothing that somebody is almost choosing by default. Right?
Yeah.
And I think the same could be said for a lot of the people that should really need your services, but for whatever reason, because it's not the challenge. I'm sure when you do your case meetings and whatnot, it's not like in this big auditorium that's how they have to meet you. I'm sure it's a lot more one-on-one,
I
right?
think a lot of it, even for both of them, it just has to go with your environment, the people that you spend time with, you know, what your job is, where you work. I think that just those little things plays into effect of whether you want to reach a goal or not. Because with our youth that I work with and I do case management for, a lot of their issues is drugs, gangs, not going to school, skipping school, getting caught up with the police, things like that. But it's just because their environment, and they come in, they say, I want to change, I want to graduate, I don't want to, you know, be hanging with these kind of people anymore, I don't want to go to jail, but yet they still surround themselves with that kind of group of people that it's hard for them to make change. And that can be the same thing for fitness. You know, they're constantly spending time with people who don't believe in taking care of yourself and putting yourself first and going to the gym and just being healthy, and then that could play it, you know, into effect.
You know, one thing I wanted to kind of, I wouldn't say close on, but it reminds me just recently we were texting, DMing each other, and you had this post that you were so chipper in the morning. Somebody that were you a cheerleader before back in high school?
Yeah. I was.
Where were you a cheerleader at?
So I didn't grow up here.
Right.
I grew up in the mainland, so it was just high school, cheer, all through 9th grade. It's because I did gymnastics before cheerleading. So when I went into cheerleading, it kind of made me like step up, which I was like fortunate. But I don't know, I love cheerleading so much. It wasn't just like cheerleading itself, but just like the friendships I made and the community that I was, you know, surrounded myself with. And then even now, like, I still think it's so fun. If I had the chance, I would still do it.
You know, it's a true story. Like, I was following you before you wanted to become a coach. And part of my processes of coming back, and as much as I've been in the industry for a long time, obviously being 5-6 months out of it, like this, I might have opened this gym, but this gym didn't feel like my home anymore. And a lot of the people that I knew, both as workers as well as people that were regulars here at the gym, I didn't really see anybody, right? And this isn't really kind of the environment to talk to. So for part of my processes, I was looking at who was like putting their hashtags in the UFC gym to kind of in a weird social media way to get to know who are the environment. And your profile always kind of stuck out because number one, you're a lifter, and I like anybody that's lifting heavy crap, you know. But it was also part of you have a good social media presence and personality.
Thank you.
And that's part of the reason why it's like you had this. What was your post? You said something like it's early in the morning, I don't have makeup on or something like that, and I haven't had any coffee. And I think I looked at it like groggy. I was like, who the hell does this? Why would you do that to yourself? So. But I'm just kind of putting that out there as obviously something that's really appreciative, and obviously we can see where your kind of sanguine personality comes from. What's kind of some of your driving things that keeps you motivated to kind of continue just for your own personal health as well as like, things that you're trying to do as a coach now? Yeah.
I mean, honestly, growing up, nothing that was really stuck to me. You know, I would try different sports and this. My parents would try to get me involved in these type of things, but it never really stuck. With fitness, I think, honestly, what drove me to keep going is that people would tell me, they would compliment me. They would be like, wow, that's so cool, your muscles are cool, oh my gosh, I've never seen someone lift before. And I think, honestly, if it weren't for people giving me that praise, I probably would have stopped. But it's like, wow, like, people enjoy my physique and they like seeing me strong, like, I have to keep going, and I think that's what really, like, drove me to keep going. But, you know, now I don't care so much about that, you know, it's more of just living a healthy
Well, for
lifestyle.
somebody that's not caring, you still do a pretty dang good job of,
Yeah.
I don't know what the bar that you're trying to hold yourself to.
Yeah, it's just more of a passion now. It's definitely in the beginning, it's like, oh, I have to do this because people are impressed, so like, let me see how far I can go. But now it's just like, I'm having so much fun, I'm so passionate for it, I love helping people along the way. I love that I'm healthy, I'm taking care of my body, mentally, physically. I've just seen the changes compared to before lifting and now, and just how much it has affected my life. That I wanna keep going,
Okay. Well, you're definitely a huge asset to the team. Thank you for going through all the steps and whatnot. I've always found that this is a very fulfilling job. Like being a teacher, there's certain things and certain metrics
Yeah.
that those are the trophies like on the shelf. I'm not the type of person that cares necessarily about sales numbers.
Right.
Like if our profession was paid on, hey, I got somebody's bench up to here, or I got so-and-so to lose X amount of weight, and also on the other side of it is just the social connections that you build with people. For all these, I never thought that I would be meeting different calibers and different lifestyles, and I think those are things that only can be appreciated by people that get into social work and understand the value of helping people out on that side. That was great. Hey, why don't you give a quick bit for people? So let's say you want to get big and strong, you want to look like this, you want to be smart like this. How do people get a hold of you?
My Instagram is Lift with Joy. Just DM me, follow me. I love engaging with people, making friends on there. People always come to me, they just ask a question. Maybe necessarily they don't want to work with me specifically, but they just want form checks and nutrition advice and all that. I am just so down for all of that. I love helping people, and just making new friends. I love making new friends.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on the show, and let's do this again. I know that we're planning on, Lauren was talking to you that we're going to be doing kind of a social media blitz on different stuff, so I think you have a lot of really good helpful tips and a lot of good information for people to know, and pretty much, all the coaches we have our 2 cents to share on it. So, but, who says that this is going to be the last one?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, let's retouch it and we'll probably do this again.
Cool.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.